Forget everything you've seen in the movies. The blonde hair, the piercing blue eyes, the image of a single, pure-blooded warrior race descending from the frozen north. Forget the history books, the TV shows, the national myths. They're all wrong. We've been sold a fantasy. A recent, groundbreaking study sequenced the DNA of over 400 Viking skeletons, and the results are a bombshell that will rewrite history. Many Vikings were not blonde. They had brown hair, and their veins flowed with the blood of Southern Europeans and Asians. Today, on DNA Detective, we crack open history's ultimate cold case. Who were the real people of the North? The answer is written not in sagas, but in their bones. And that answer will change everything you thought you knew about the story of Scandinavia. The official story is simple and seductive. For centuries, the people of Scandinavia, the lands we now call Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, were a remote and isolated group, hardy folk shaped by ice and sea. Then, around the year 800 AD, they exploded onto the world stage. In their magnificent longships, they became the masters of the ocean, raiders, traders, explorers, and conquerors. They stormed the coasts of England, laid siege to Paris, founded the Kingdom of Russia, and became the first Europeans to set foot in North America. They were, in short, a force of nature. This is the story we all know, the convenient alibi that history has given us. But it's a story with a fatal flaw. It fails to explain the evidence hidden deep inside their own genetic code. For centuries, we believed the Vikings were a distinct, almost racially pure group that erupted from an isolated north. But their genetics tell a completely different story. It's a story of constant migration into Scandinavia, not just out of it. The history books say one thing, but their blood says another. Who are we going to believe? The conflict is clear. The romantic myth of a pure people versus the shocking DNA evidence of a multicultural melting pot. So the question is, if the Vikings were not a single people, what were they? And where did this unexpected foreign DNA come from? Our investigation begins by tracking a genetic ghost that haunts the Scandinavian genome, a marker that points us thousands of miles away to the heart of Siberia. When geneticists analyze paternal ancestry, they track something called a haplogroup, a kind of genetic clan that passes down from father to son through the Y chromosome. Think of them as ancient fingerprints left at a crime scene. When we look at Scandinavia, we expect to find the usual suspects. The first is haplogroup 11. This is the classic, homegrown Scandinavian marker. If there's a Viking gene, this is it. Then we find R1A and R1B, two other massive European clans. Their presence tells us that even thousands of years before the first longship set sail, Scandinavia was already a land of multiple ancient migrations. One wave arriving from the great steppes of Eastern Europe, another from the heartlands of the West. But then, forensic investigators found another fingerprint at the scene, one that does not belong. It's called haplogroup N. And its highest frequencies today are not in Scandinavia, but thousands of miles east, among the Finno-Ugric and Samoyedic peoples of the Ural Mountains and Siberia. This is the ghost in the genome, but it's a prehistoric echo from a time when the ancestors of Siberians and the ancestors of Europeans met and mixed in the vast forests of the north. This is the genetic signature of peoples like the Sami, the indigenous inhabitants of northern Scandinavia. This Siberian marker is the smoking gun. It proves, beyond any doubt, that the Scandinavian gene pool was never pure. From its very foundation, it was a fusion, a unique blend forged from an ancient alliance between Ice Age European hunters and mysterious wanderers from Asia. If the paternal lines reveal a story of ancient migrations, the maternal lines, passed down from mother to child in the mitochondrial DNA, reveal the drama of the Viking Age itself. And the story they tell is one of conquest, assimilation, and transformation. When scientists analyzed the mitochondrial DNA from Viking graves, they found a shocking pattern. During the Viking Age, there was a huge influx of maternal haplogroups from two specific places, the British-Irish Isles and the eastern Baltic region. What does this mean? It means the Vikings did not just travel as men. Every raid, every trade mission, every settlement did not just bring back gold and silver. It brought back foreign mothers. These women, whether they were captives taken in a raid on an English monastery or the daughters of Slavic chieftains married in a political alliance, they were integrated into Scandinavian society. They wove British, Irish, and Slavic threads into the genetic fabric of the very next generation. The children who grew up in the homesteads of Norway and Sweden were, in many cases, half Scandinavian and half something else. The melting pot was not a rare exception, but it was the engine of their society. The final, irrefutable piece of evidence comes when we combine the genetics with the archaeology. In the Orkney Islands of Scotland, a famous Viking burial ground, archaeologists found two men buried with all the trappings of powerful Viking warriors. They had swords, shields, and were laid to rest in the classic Norse tradition. They lived and died as Vikings. But when their DNA was tested, it delivered the ultimate plot twist. They had zero Scandinavian ancestry. Genetically, they were locals. They were Picts or Scots who had adopted the Viking culture. This is the ultimate proof. You did not have to be born a Scandinavian to become a Viking. Being a Viking was a cultural choice, a way of life, a career path that promised wealth and glory. It was an identity you could adopt, like joining a club or a company. They were a diverse coalition of peoples, united not by blood, but by a common culture of seafaring, trade, and warfare. Look at a map of their trade routes, and you see the DNA highways of the ancient world. They stretched from Greenland to Constantinople, and from Russia to Spain. Southern European DNA flowed north with traders, mercenaries, and craftsmen. Eastern European and Asian DNA flowed west with merchants traveling the great river roads. The Viking longship was not just a vessel of war. It was a crucible of genetic mixing that created a new international identity. So, what is the verdict of the DNA? It is clear, and it is final. The myth of the pure, blonde, isolated Scandinavian is dead. It was a 19th century invention, born of nationalism and a romantic desire for a simple past. The reality is far more complex and far more compelling. The Viking Age was not the product of a master race, but of a master culture. Its explosive power came from its incredible diversity and its surprising openness to outsiders. They were history's ultimate opportunists, and their secret weapon was their willingness to absorb the DNA, the technologies, and the ideas of every culture they encountered. This genetic and cultural hybrid vigor is what truly propelled them across the globe. We look to history to tell us who we are, to draw lines on a map that separate us from them. But DNA tells a different story. It relentlessly erases those lines. The genes of modern Scandinavians, like the genes of all of us, are a beautiful mosaic, a living chronicle of 1,000 forgotten journeys and hidden alliances and dramatic collisions. Their DNA proves that we are all far more connected than we are different. The ancient sagas tell the stories of gods and heroes, but our DNA tells the story of us. And it is the most honest history book we will ever read. So what shocking discoveries have you made about your own ancestry? Share your story in the comments below. And if you believe that science holds the key to unlocking our past, subscribe to DNA Detective and join us on our next investigation.